Okay, good morning, everybody. This is SAT Math. I'm sorry, let me start over. It's not math. Oh boy. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. This is SAT Reading Crash Course, Day 2. We're in Part 1, and we're starting off with the second passage from PSAT Practice Test Number 1. I actually want to start with the rules for reading. So I'm going to put that up on the screen. And Irene, if you will read, we focused on in the first day on rules number 1 and 2, looking up every word you don't know to boost your vocab. And then that approach to the text I described as reading for meaning, right? Stopping, slowing down, making sure you're chewing on the ideas and fully appreciating what the author's trying to communicate. And today we're going to focus mostly on rule number 3. So go ahead and read rule number 3 for me, please, Irene.
Look for evidence in the text to support the correct answer choice and to eliminate incorrect answer choices. You never need to bring in your opinion or think about what might sound reasonable. Focus on the text.
Okay, good. And we're going to have a couple passages that we're going to look at today. We're going to practice that strategy of focusing on evidence in the text. And let's go. I want to begin with reading together. I want to read that second passage. And if you'll read that for me, I'll guide you through it, and I want to stop and discuss some of the ideas as we read it. And make sure you start with the introduction, right, where it says this passage is adapted. I really strongly recommend that students always read the introduction. It gives you a little preview of what you're going to be seeing. It's going to give you some context. So go ahead and start with that, and then we'll discuss.
Okay. This passage is adapted from Marina Gorbis, The Nature of the Future. Dispatches from the Social Structured World, 2013, by Marina Gorbis.
Great. Keep going.
To the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 1970s always marveled between what they saw in the state stores. Shelves empty or filled with things no one wanted, and what they saw in people's homes. Nice furnishings and tables filled with food.
Okay, I'm going to stop you real quick. I think we discussed this at the end of the last session. State stores. What does state mean here in this context? Do you recall? If you don't, it's not a problem. No. State means government stores. We're talking about the Soviet Union. It was a communist country from like 1917 to 1991. And in a communist country, the government basically runs everything. Think like North Korea, basically. And so state stores would be a government-run store. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, keep going, please.
What filled the gap? A vast informal economy driven by human relationships, dense networks of social connections, created resources, and created value.
Okay, do you remember that word economy? Do you recall what that means? If you don't, that's okay too. Vast informal economy.
Is it?
Go ahead, sorry. You can look it up if you need to look it up. Go and look it up.
I remember, maybe it's not numbers.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, the numbers might be involved, but it's a bigger idea than that.
The wealth and resources of a country or region.
Yeah, the wealth and resources of a country. I like to describe it or define it as sort of the whole system by which people get goods and services they want and need. So basically anything involving business. Basically, that's all part of the economy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So vast informal economy. Do you know what vast means?
Like wide range?
Yeah. Big. Just big, large, wide range, good. Okay, so a vast informal economy driven by human relationships. Okay, good. Take it from line 9, the Soviet people.
The Soviet people didn't plot how they would build these networks. No one was teaching them how to maximize their connections the way social marketers eagerly teach us today. Their networks evolved naturally, out of necessity. That was the only way to survive.
Okay, good. Any questions about the rest of that paragraph, or is that those ideas are relatively straightforward?
It was straightforward, I
Okay,
think.
good. Yeah, I don't think there's the vocab there is nothing's too tricky there. So let's keep reading from line 15.
Today, all around the world, we are seeing a new kind of network-driven economics emerging, with individuals joining forces, sometimes to fill the gaps left by existing institutions, corporations, governments, educational establishments, and sometimes creating new products, services, and knowledge that no institution is able to provide.
Yeah, I want to stop here for a minute and take a look at that word institution. That's going to pop up quite a bit in this passage. Do you know what an institution is? Do you know what that means? You can look it up if you need to. Have that Google search handy. What's an institution? I know you've heard the word, but like, what does it mean?
A society?
I mean, there's a social aspect to it for sure.
A society or organization founded for religious, educational, social, or similar purpose.
Yeah, really, and I think in a word, just like an organization. An organization. So that could include like a corporation or company. That could include a government. It included an educational establishment. Those are all organizations. But institution is basically just a formal organization. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're going to see that word quite a bit. So we're talking about, okay, so existing institutions, sometimes creating new products, services, and knowledge that no institution is able to provide. Okay, keep going, please, from empowered.
Empowered by computing and communication technologies that have been steadily building village-like networks on a global scale, we are using more and more of our economic transactions with social
connectedness.
Connectedness.
Yeah.
Connectedness.
You know, it's interesting. I think a little when I read this passage, I think a little bit about kind of what I do, right, as a tutor and as a teacher. Right, like I don't work for a big company. I don't work for like a Kaplan or Princeton Review. I'm an independent tutor, but I'm able to still reach out to students mostly because of social networks or social media. You know, my wife puts things out on Facebook. You know, we're plugged into some email networks and things like that. So, and even the way I'm teaching right now, right? I'm teaching over Skype as opposed to like renting out a class or something like that, right? So, you know, really what I'm able to do is only a result of this new technology, and really, you know, that's only possible during the internet age that we live in. Does that make some sense? Just kind of as a specific example, as I'm not an organization, I'm just a guy, but using social media, using modern technology, you know, I'm able to provide a service that people want outside of a traditional organization. Okay. Let's take it from line 27, the new technologies.
Are inherently social and personal. They help us create communities around interests, identities, and common personal challenges. They allow us to gain direct access to a worldwide community of others. And they take
anonymity
out of our economic transactions.
Okay, let's talk about the word anonymity. Do you know what that means? Anonymity?
No.
Go ahead and look that up. Anonymity. And it might be just be easier to just kind of copy and paste if you're able to do that. Anonymity.
The condition of being anonymous.
Yeah, being anonymous. And what does it mean to be anonymous?
Like an anonymous donor.
Yep. You've heard it, right? So anonymous means unnamed.
Unnamed. Okay.
Unnamed, without a name, right? The Latin word nomine is name. So anonymous means without. The a prefix represents that means not. It's the negative. So not named. So so why are these social networks? Why are they taking anonymity out of our economic transactions? Why would that be the case? Why are they doing that?
they were there. This is not. It's
So
talking about like social networks.
yeah, right. So
I'm
like
not
if
sure.
so it's talking about like people basically like transacting with each other across social networks, right? So like you know who you're buying from. It's like an individual. It's a person, right? It's not just like a big corporation, right? Do you have like social media? Are you like Facebook or Twitter or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, like there's Facebook Marketplace, for example, right? Like you can literally just buy a product from someone, an individual who's selling it. Or if they're selling like a PlayStation or a TV or something like that, you can buy it from an individual. You don't have to buy it from buy it from like Walmart. That's not very personal, and you're not buying it from a an individual with a name, right?
Right.
You're buying it from a large impersonal corporation. So here's just saying that this is allowing us to conduct economic transactions with actual individuals who we know. That's it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, take it from line 32. We can assess.
We can assess those we don't know by checking their reputations as buyers and sellers on eBay or following their Twitter streams. We can look up their friends on Facebook and watch their YouTube videos. We can easily get people's advice on where to find the best shoemaker in Brazil, the best programmer in India, and the best apple farmer in our local community. We no longer have to rely on bankers or venture capitalists as a source of funding for our ideas.
Yeah, I want to talk about the term venture capitalist real quick. So a venture capitalist is somebody that invests in small businesses or small startups. Basically, that's what that's referring to. Um, so saying we no longer have to rely on bankers or venture. We don't have to longer have to rely on professional investors as the only sources for funding our ideas. Think like Kickstarter. That's not like are you familiar with Kickstarter? Have you heard of it?
No,
Somebody like it's a
no.
website where like if you have an idea like you want to like make a certain kind of movie or like a certain kind of comic book or like maybe you have like an invention like a motorized scooter of some sort with a special design, you can get people to invest like just individuals to invest in your idea and sort of pay for it up front, so that you can have money to actually carry out the project. Does that make sense? That's
Yes.
just a specific example of not having to rely on a bank or something like that for funding. Individuals are raising funds for each other now. All right, go ahead from line 42.
We can raise funds directly from individuals, most of whom we don't even know, through websites that allow people to post descriptions of their projects and generate donations, investments, or loans.
Yeah, and that's like a direct reference to websites like Kickstarter. All right, take it from 47, please.
We are moving away from the dominance of the depersonalized world of institutional production and creating a new economy around social connections and social rewards. Process I call social structuring.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. I want to discuss that sentence here. It says we are moving away from the dominance of the depersonalized world of institutional production. Ooh, there's a lot of big words there. Most you're familiar with, I suspect. That's a lot of language to chew on there. First, what does dominance mean, Irene?
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Power and influence over others.
Yeah, just having a lot of power over someone else.
Yeah.
So we're moving away from the dominance of the depersonalized world of institutional production. What does depersonalized mean? If something's let's talk, I mean it's going to be the opposite of personal, right?
Right. So, is it?
So if something's personal, right? It's like
It's like your own if it's personal.
Yeah, like it's yours or it's between people, right? And between individuals. And here, so we're moving away from the dominance, the power of the depersonalized world, right? That's the institutional or the institutions we were talking about earlier. The depersonalized world of institutional production. We're just relying on big organizations to produce things. Now we're talking about individuals that are empowered, that are doing things and making things, creating value. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we're moving away from the dominance of the depersonalized world. Maybe another word would be like impersonal world, right? Same kind of idea. Depersonalized world of institutional production, creating a new economy around social connections and social rewards. And then she makes up this word called social structuring. I've never heard before outside this passage. I don't expect to hear it a lot, but anyway. So she defines their social structuring for us. Keep going from line 51.
Others have referred to this model of production as social, common-based, or peer-to-peer. Not only is this social economy an unprecedented
Unprecedented
level of familiarity and connectedness to both our global and our local economic exchanges, but it is also changing every domain of our lives, from finance to education and health.
I'm going to stop you real quick. There's a couple words I want to talk about here. Unprecedented, do you know what that means? No? That means sort of like without precedent, which means like nothing like this has happened before, right? Nothing like this has ever been seen before if it's unprecedented. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like an unprecedented, boost in the economy or something like that. It never happened. Nothing like this had ever happened before. So we're talking about here an unprecedented level of familiarity and connectedness to both our global and local economic exchanges. But it is also changing every domain of our lives, from finance to education to health. Does that make sense? The end of that sentence? Okay. All right, take it from, good. Take it from line 57. It is rapidly.
It is rapidly ushering in a vast array of new opportunities for us to pursue our passions.
Okay, I'm going to stop you real quick. So it's rapidly ushering in. What does that mean? It's ushering in.
Like coming in.
Yeah, coming in. It's bringing in. Yeah, bringing in. When I think about like an usher, in church or in a wedding or something like that, right? The people that bring people in, right? So it's rapidly bringing in a vast array. We already talked about vast. What's vast mean again? Big. Yeah, perfect. Big. A vast array. What's an array? You can look that up if you need to. It's rapidly ushering in a vast array.
An impressive display.
Yeah, an impressive display.
A range of a particular type of thing.
Yeah, I think a good synonym would just be like a range. A range. It's rapidly ushering in a vast, or very large range of new opportunities for us to pursue our passions. Keep going, please. From line
Create
59.
new types. Is that where you?
Yep.
Business and charitable organizations redefine the nature of work and address a wide range of problems that is prevailing formal economy has neglected, if not caused.
Okay, let's keep going from line 64.
Structuring is in fact enabling not only a new kind of global economy, but a new kind of society in which amplified individuals, empowered technologies, and the collective intelligence of others can take on many functions that previously only large organizations could perform efficiently, at lower cost or no cost at all, and with much greater ease.
Okay, that's a really long sentence there. It's really long. Well, the funny thing is about academic writing is just it's a lot of it's not great. I'll be honest. I think the style of this, some of the vocab is just too obscure or just unnecessarily fancy, and the sentence structure is just it's length. This is what I would describe as a run-on sentence. It's just too complicated. It's too many ideas lumped into one sentence. But this is the kind of stuff you're going to be reading in the SAT, so you got to be familiar with it. I want to talk about that word amplified. What does it mean to amplify something?
Make bigger.
Yeah, make it bigger. Absolutely, make it bigger. Make it louder. Right? Absolutely. So we're talking about amplified individuals who can amplify or make bigger and louder their voice using these social networks. And it says these individuals can take on many functions that previously only large organizations could perform, often more efficiently at lower cost or no cost at all, and with much greater ease. Again, I think a little bit of sort of what I do, right? I don't have a big corporation I have to work for. I don't have the expenses of a big corporation. I don't have to pay for a building or an office space or anything like that. I've got much lower costs than most of those larger businesses, larger institutions, if you will, have. Take it from line 72, social structuring.
Social structuring is opening up a world of what my colleagues Jacques Vallée
Yeah, why not?
and
Jacques
Bob
Vallée.
Johansen describe as the world of impossible features, a world in which a large software can be displaced by weakened hackers.
Yeah, what does displaced mean?
Software hackers.
A large software firm can be displaced by weekend software hackers. What does that mean?
Like remove?
Yeah, remove. Did you say removed?
Out of place?
Yeah, like removed or replaced. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like just a couple guys like doing some coding in their basement can do things that the big corporations aren't doing, or maybe even provide a better software than some of the big guys are doing. Real quick note: when it comes to like names like that, Jacques Vallée, whatever, like it's a very French name. I don't even know exactly how it's pronounced, but that's okay. Don't worry. When you're reading through this on the time test, obviously, like just skip over, long, complicated, formal words that might take some time and effort to pronounce. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, just don't even worry about trying to pronounce them. Just be like JV and BH. Oh, Bob Johansen. That's pretty easy to pronounce. But yeah, and you'll see lots of words that are, again, like people and places that are tricky to pronounce. Don't even worry about it. Okay, so large software firm can be displaced by weekend software hackers. We're at line 76, and rapidly orchestrated.
And rapidly orchestrated social movements can bring down governments in a matter of weeks.
What does orchestrated mean in this context? Rapidly orchestrated social movements. What'd you say? Sorry?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no problem. Here I think it just means like organized. Organized.
Okay.
Rapidly organized social movements can bring down governments in a matter of weeks. I think of, I'm a big fan of current events. I probably read the news way too much, but like this was maybe 10 years ago. There was a revolution in Egypt, which was largely, people took to the streets and were protesting the government, and the whole thing was largely organized on Twitter, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, very impressive. The dangers, but also the power of social media. Okay, take it from line 78, the changes.
The changes are exciting and unpredictable. They threaten many established institutions and offer a wealth of opportunities for individuals to empower themselves, find rich new connections, and tap into a fast, evolving set of new resources in everything from healthcare to education and science.
Okay, keep going, please. Almost done.
Written about how technology distances us from the benefits of face-to-face communication and quality social time are important concerns. But while the quality of our face-to-face interactions is changing, the countervailing forces of social structuring is connecting us at levels never seen before. New opportunities to create, learn, and share.
Yeah, well, our quality of our face-to-face interactions is changing. The countervailing force. Countervailing. Sort of means like counteracting force, working against, right? While the quality of our face-to-face interactions is changing, the countervailing force of social structuring. It is interesting, right? Because this, when you think of like social media or like when you see people on their cell phones, that feels very unpersonal as far as like how we relate to each other, as individuals in the presence of each other. But at the same time, too, it's also allowing us to make social connections we wouldn't otherwise have had. So we see some sort of these forces acting against each other a little bit. But anyway. Okay, let's look at some of these questions. There's a little chart here, by the way. Notice when you see a chart on a passage, don't worry about even really looking at the chart until they ask you a question about it. Okay? And we'll have some questions at the end that ask us to analyze this graph. We'll get to that. Okay, let's start with question number 10. Go and read that for me, please.
As used in line 10, plot most nearly means.
Okay, and do you remember the method that I taught in the day 1 course with these vocab questions? Do you remember what to do here? Yeah, right. We've got to plug it in into the sentence, plug in the answer choice into the sentence, and read it, and it's going to have to make perfect sense for the correct answer choices, and the incorrect ones just aren't going to make sense. Okay, so let's plug. So line 10, we're going to start with the word mark. We'll plug that into line 10. Read that whole sentence, beginning with the Soviet people.
The Soviet people didn't mark how they would build these networks.
How does that sound?
It doesn't. To me, I don't think it fits.
Yeah, it doesn't sound great. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I feel pretty comfortable eliminating that. Okay, if we don't know, we'll leave it. But if you're like, that doesn't make much sense to me, then we can pretty comfortably eliminate it. Let's try answer choice B, form. So we'll plug that into the sentence in line 10.
The Soviet people didn't form how they would build these networks.
Does that make sense? What do you think? And if you don't know, we can leave it.
I don't think so. The next one sounds better.
Yeah, I don't think form makes a lot of sense. Let's eliminate it. We'll try C, and so C, plan. We'll plug that in. Let me hear it.
The Soviet people didn't plan how they would build these networks.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially in the context of that paragraph. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, that's a good sign. But now remember, we want to do two things. We want to confirm the right answer choice, and C sounds pretty good, but we also want to eliminate all the incorrect answer choices. So let's plug in D and confirm that it's probably C. All right, so answer choice D is claim. Try plugging in claim.
The Soviet people didn't claim build these networks.
How's that?
But I think plan is better.
Yeah, plan is better. Plan is better. It is. It's the only one that really makes sense there in that context. So we can confirm it. It's C. All right, good job. Let's do question number 11. Go ahead and read that for me, please.
The references to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer in lines 37 through 40 community primarily serve to...
Okay. Now, before we answer this question, what are we going to have to do?
Go back to 37.
Go back to 37 through 40 and read it. Absolutely, right? And we're going to look for the purpose of those lines. But go ahead and read that 37 through 40. To start with, we can easily
get people's advice on where to find the best shoemaker programmer in India and the best apple farmer in our local community.
Okay. All right. And so the references, the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer in those lines primarily serve to, let's test the answer choices. Go and read A for me, please.
Illustrate the quality of products and services in countries around the world.
Okay. Do those references to the shoemaker, programmer, and apple farmer serve to illustrate the quality of products and services in countries around the world? Is that they're, and the key here is that word primarily. Do they primarily serve to do that?
I don't know.
Yeah. We can leave it right now if we want. It doesn't seem. And let's leave it. If we're not sure, if we can't comfortably eliminate it, let's just leave it. See if we can find something better. Do they do that? Maybe. Do they primarily serve to do that? I'm not sure. Let's leave it for right now. We'll come back to it. Go ahead and read answer choice B.
Emphasize the broad reach of technologies used to connect people.
Okay, do the references to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer, do they primarily serve to emphasize the broad reach of technologies used to connect people?
No.
Yeah, let's, here's what I want to do for this one. I want to read a little bit of context. Okay, and I find this, I don't remember exactly what that paragraph was about, where lines 37 through 40 are. You know what I'm saying? I want to read a little bit before those lines and a little bit after those lines, and I think we'll have a clear idea what those references to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer, what those things are referring to, or what the purpose of those references is. So actually, I want to reread. That paragraph. Can we do that? Starting with line 27, the new technologies.
The new technologies are inherently social and personal. They help us create communities around interests, identities, and challenges. They allow us to gain direct access to a worldwide community of others.
You there, Irene? I think you're cutting out. And Irene, can you hear me, Irene?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I think you just cut out for just a minute, but we're good. Okay. All right. Where are you at? What line?
I was at and they take.
What line is that? Okay. Oh,
line 31.
Okay, good.
Line 31.
Yeah, go and keep going from there.
And they take anonymity out of our economic transactions. We can access those we don't know by checking their reputations as buyers and sellers on eBay, or by following their Twitter streams, friends on Facebook, and watch their YouTube videos. We can easily get people's advice on where to find the best shoemaker in Brazil, the best programmer in India, and the best in our local community. We no longer have to rely on bankers or lists as the only source of funding. Yes, we can raise funds directly from individuals, most of whom we don't even know, through websites that allow people to post descriptions of their projects and generate donations, investments, or loans.
Good. I feel much more comfortable looking at answer choices A and B now that we've read some context. Okay? Now that we've read some context. So the reference to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farm, those lines primarily serves to. Okay? Go and read A again. I think we've got some perspective on this now.
Illustrate the quality of products and services in countries around the world.
Okay. Do those references to the shoemaker, programmer, and apple farmer illustrate the quality of products and services in countries around the world? Is that the primary purpose?
Yes.
Does it do that? That sounds pretty good. Illustrate the quality of products and services in countries around the world. Let's keep that. Let's keep it again. All right, because we're talking about finding the best of, the best programmer, the best apple farmer, things like that. Try answer choice B.
Emphasize the broad of technologies used to connect people.
Do the references to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer in those lines emphasize the broad reach of technologies used to connect people?
I think.
I mean, don't think about like what I think the right answer what might be or what you think. Like, just what is the let's focus on the text. Do those examples emphasize the broad reach of technologies used to connect people?
Yes.
They do that. They do that. Now, this is interesting, right? Because A and B both seem to be true. But we've got to find out what, especially given the context, what the references primarily serve to do. Okay, but A and B both look pretty good. We'll come back to decide between those two. Go ahead and read C, though.
Demonstrate that recommendations made online are trustworthy.
Okay, do the references to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer, do they primarily serve to demonstrate that recommendations online are trustworthy? Is that their primary purpose?
I think they mention it. It says they're good, but I don't think.
The question is that the primary purpose of having those references to the shoemaker, the programmer, and the apple farmer? I don't think so. Right? I don't. The paragraph isn't about that online recommendations are trustworthy. That's not the point of that paragraph. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that paragraph. What's the main point of that paragraph?
It's like using social media to help connect people.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's it. Right? It's not about whether or not online recommendations are trustworthy or not. And just thinking about that, by the way, what do you think is a better answer choice, A or B?
B.
B, definitely. Definitely. Look, A is a true statement. I mean, they're identified. There's quality apple farmers and there's a quality program in India, sure, but especially given the context of that paragraph, I think the main purpose is to emphasize how much influence these technologies have in connecting people, which would be answer choice B. I think that's the best so far. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Context is huge. So just be aware, sometimes even when they ask you to reference a certain number of lines, like we did, right? Go back and read 37 through 40. Just start there. But if it's still unclear, which I think it was, read a little context, read a little bit before after those, read a little bit before those lines, read a little bit after those lines. Okay? I strongly recommend that. I use that strategy all the time. Go ahead and read answer choice D. Let's see what D says.
Call attention to the limits of the expansion of the global economy.
Yeah, do those references to the shoemaker, programmer, and apple farmer call attention to the limits of the expansion of the global economy?
Mm-hmm.
The limits. What does that mean, the limits?
Like how far you can go, like there's a limit to something.
Yeah, how far you can go, specifically like how far you can't go, right? How far you can't go. So we're talking about like the limits of the expansion of the global economy, but I think it's kind of the opposite of that here, right? It's not the limits of the expansion; it's like the extent of the expansion, how much it's expanded, not how limited it is, right? When it's talking about the programmer in India, for example. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can pretty easily eliminate answer choice D, especially when you read the paragraph. And again, it's all about how social media is connecting us and connecting people all over the world. So, and here, yeah, the best answer choice is indeed answer choice B. Okay, does that make some sense?
Yes.
And look, it's not always going to be super clear what the right answer is. There's some questions I look at, I'm like, boy, I'm just torn between two answer choices. But generally, you can eliminate two of the answer choices. And you'll see this pattern a lot. There's two that are just like, what? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think here that's kind of C and D. They just don't make a whole lot of sense. A is reasonable, and B is reasonable too, but B is better than A. So try to see if you can eliminate the two obviously incorrect answer choices. And then even if that's all you do, you've got a 50-50 shot on a tough question. I'll take those odds. I'll take those odds for sure. All right, go ahead and read question number 12.
The passage's discussion of life in the 1960s and 1970s primarily serves to...
Okay, the same kind of question, right? We're talking about the purpose of the discussion of life in the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 70s. What should we do before we answer this question?
You know what the whole passage is about.
I'm assuming you said go back. You cut out for just a little bit. But let's do it. Let's go back. Let's read that paragraph. That first paragraph.
The first one?
Yeah, that's where they discuss life in the Soviet Union. Yeah, that first paragraph.
Okay. Visitors to the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 1970s always marveled at the gap between what they saw in state stores, shelves empty or filled with things no one wanted, and what they saw in people's homes, nice furnishings and tables filled with food. A vast informal economy driven by human relationships of social connections through which people traded resources and created value. And plot how they would build these networks. No one was teaching them how to maximize their connections the way social marketers eagerly teach us today. And naturally, out of necessity, is the only way to survive.
Okay, good. So the question is that the passage discussion of life in the Soviet Union in the 60s and 70s primarily serves to... Let's read the answer choices and test them. Go ahead and read A, please.
Introduce the concept of social networking.
Okay, does the discussion of life in the Soviet Union primarily serve to introduce the concept of social networking? Let's go back. Do we see any evidence to support that answer choice? That the purpose of that discussion is to introduce the idea of social networking. Do you see any evidence for that in the text?
It's lines 8, kind of dense networks of social connections.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Anywhere else?
Line 12.
Yeah, we're talking about people maximizing their connections. Maybe even a little bit before that, we're talking about how people would build these networks. They're talking about social networks. Line 13, their networks evolved naturally. They're talking about social networks. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think answer choice A is looking pretty good. I see some evidence to support that. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's not stop there. Let's leave it. Let's read answer choice B.
Demonstrate that technology has improved social connections.
Okay. Is the primary purpose of that passage to demonstrate that technology has improved social connections? Let's go back to that paragraph and see if we can find some evidence to support that or maybe eliminate that.
I don't think that is the answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. Why not?
I don't really see evidence.
Yeah, is there a discussion about technology anywhere in that paragraph? And we're talking about social connections and social networks, but I think this is specifically a question about that technology has improved social connections. So do you see any evidence in that paragraph that of technology improving social connections?
No, I don't see.
No, I don't see it either. I don't. And then compare that to the answer choice A, where it was like, oh yeah, there's evidence there and there and there, and there's just nothing for technology. It's just not even on topic. It's not about technology improving social connections. Now, maybe later in the rest of the passage, but that's not the question. The question is the discussion about the Soviet Union. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We can really comfortably eliminate B. There's evidence against that, or complete lack of evidence to support it. Go ahead and read answer choice C.
List differences between the Soviet Union and other countries.
Okay. So let's see. Does the discussion of life in the Soviet Union primarily serve to list differences between the Soviet Union and other countries? Is that the primary purpose of that discussion?
They don't compare.
Yeah, there's no comparison. None, right? It's clearly not the purpose. They don't compare to anything. So, no. Answer choice C is gone. That's easy, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Go back, look for evidence to support and eliminate these answer choices. Go ahead and read D for me, please.
Emphasize the importance of examining historical trends.
Okay. Is the passage discussion of life in the Soviet Union in the 60s and 70s, does that primarily serve to emphasize the importance of examining historical trends? Emphasize the importance of examining historical trends. What do you think?
No, but I don't think so. I might not be getting the question right.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, it's this is one of those answer choices that sounds very impressive, like, ooh, importance of analyzing historical trends. Sounds fancy. But I mean, look at that paragraph. I see no discussion about anything even close to analyzing historical trends. Nothing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, it's just not even on topic. A lot of kids are going to fall for it, though. They're like, that sounds fancy. It's probably, I don't even know what that's saying. That must be it. Don't fall for that. Just focus on the evidence in the text. And if you focus on that, it's going to be clear. It's not about analyzing the importance of analyzing historical trends. No way. The passage doesn't support it. But it supports A, which is the correct answer choice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be times where maybe you read an answer choice and you're like, boy, I don't know what that means. Well, leave it as a possibility, right? Leave it as a possibility. But at least we know with absolute certainty we can support A. And D, even if you don't quite understand what it's saying, like, it's uncertain at best. Go with the one that there's evidence for, which there is for A. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. I thought you handled that question very, very well. Good job. Question number 13. You don't even know how to do this. I really love these. These are so easy. These are like just gimmies if you use the method I'm showing you. So go and read the question for me, please.
As used in line 45, post most nearly means.
Okay, so let's plug in the answer. So we'll start with A, publish. So we're going to plug in publish for post into the sentence. So I guess the sentence begins with, we can raise funds directly.
We can raise funds directly from individuals, most of whom we don't even know, through websites that allow people to publish. Sorry, I lost my place.
Publish descriptions.
To publish descriptions of their projects and generate donations, investments, or loans.
Okay. Does that make sense? That word publish there.
I don't think it fits.
You think it fits or you don't think it fits?
I don't.
You don't think it fits? Let's try some of the other answer choices then. Go ahead and try answer choice B.
Transfer. Maybe publish does. Maybe I do like
it. try B, and we can always come back to A.
Is funds directly from individuals, most of whom we don't even know, through websites that allow people to transfer descriptions of their programs and generate donations, investments, or loans.
Okay, how does transfer work there?
Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Are the websites allowing people to transfer descriptions of their projects, or the websites allowing people to publish descriptions of their projects?
Publish sounds better.
Publish sounds better, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Much better. So even if maybe you don't want to compare all four of the answer choices at the same time, like just compare two and be like, well, which one makes more sense? And I would pretty comfortably eliminate B, just because A makes a lot more sense. I don't think post means transfer there. Try plugging in C, assign.
We no longer have, we can raise funds directly from individuals, most of whom we don't even know, through websites that allow people to assign descriptions of their projects and generate estimates or loans.
How's that?
It sounds...
What'd you say, Irene?
I don't think it works.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
It sounds weird.
But it sounds weird.
Well, I mean...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It sounds weird. Assign descriptions of their projects? Is that what the people do? They're assigning descriptions of their projects? Publish still just makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would get rid of that. And then answer is D, denounce.
We can raise funds directly from individuals, most of whom we don't even know, through websites that allow people to denounce descriptions of their projects and generate donations, investments, or loans.
How's that, Irene?
I don't know what denounce means.
Yeah, why don't you look up... Well, we're going to look it up in just a minute. If you were going to choose between A and D, what would you choose?
A.
Probably A. I mean, we don't know about D, but we know A works. Did you look up denounce?
Yes, publicly declare to be wrong evil.
Yeah, it's like to condemn. And I don't think people are condemning descriptions of their projects online. I don't think that you would do that with your own project. Hopefully not. But this doesn't make I mean, that's just like the opposite of making sense there. That's kind of crazy. Okay. And it is, so it is. It is answer choice A. It's certainly the best. Is it the perfect synonym for that is used in this context? It's darn good. But that's it. And it's funny because, like, when you read, like, B and C kind of might make sense if you think about it from the right path. But it's like A just works, and the others just don't work nearly as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Okay. Let's go to question number 14, please.
Indicates that in comparison to individuals, traditional organizations have tended to be...
Okay. We've got some answer choices here. Now, do you remember the part of the passage, and it's okay if you don't, do you remember the part of the passage where the author compares individuals to traditional organizations?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't know the exact lines. But here's the good news. Take a look at question number 15 for me, Irene. Okay. Did you see that question? This is one of those 2-for-1 questions.
Yes.
Right? Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? And they give you 4 sets of lines. Right? We don't have to hunt through the whole passage necessarily to find the comparison between individuals and traditional organizations. That answer is going to be somewhere in the lines, in the answer choices for question 15. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so if we read those lines, we'll look for some comparison between individuals and traditional organizations, and we'll see if we can find some comparison and talk about how they compare. Does that make sense? So let's do that. We'll read lines 22 through 26 and look for a comparison between individuals and traditional organizations. 22 through 26. Go ahead and read that for me. Begin with empowered, please.
Empowered by computing and communication technologies that have been steadily building village-like networks on a global scale, we are infusing more and more of our economic transactions with social connectedness.
Okay, do we see a comparison there between individuals and traditional institutions? Is anything being compared there?
I don't think so.
I don't see a comparison, let alone a comparison between individuals and traditional organizations. I think that's what traditional organizations, yeah. I don't see it. Okay, so that's not looking good. Go to read answer choice B for me, please. So 40 through 42.
We no longer have to rely on bankers or venture capitalists as the only source of funding for our ideals.
Okay. Do we see a comparison there between individuals and traditional organizations in those lines?
No.
No. And once again, I don't even see a comparison at all. So that's not looking good. Let's try lines 40 through 50. It's answer choice C. Or 47 through 50. We're moving away from.
We are moving away from the dominance of the depersonalized world of institutional production and creating a new economy around social connections and social rewards, a process I call social structuring.
Okay, do we see a comparison there between individuals and traditional organizations?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's okay, by the way. If you're not, I'm not sure is a 100% acceptable answer. So don't feel, and I mean this, don't feel like you have to give me a yes or no answer. Yeah, just in general. If you're not sure about something, you really know, I'm 100% okay with that. It seems better than A and B. We're talking about institutional production. Yeah. Let's see if we can find something better. I'm not sold on it, and I still don't see much of a comparison there. Let's try answer choice D. So lines 66 through 72. So I guess starting with individuals.
Individuals empowered with technologies and the collective intelligence of others and their social network can take on many functions that previously only large organizations could perform, often more efficiently at lower cost or no cost at all, and with much greater ease.
Okay, do we see a comparison there between individuals and traditional organizations?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best one so far. I mean, right off the bat, the first word is individuals. Individuals empowered with technologies and the collective intelligence of others in their social network can take on many functions that previously only large organizations, that's a reference to traditional organizations, could perform, often more efficiently at lower cost or no cost at all and with much greater ease. Absolutely. There's a comparison there, right?
I see.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Do you see the comparison now? Absolutely. They can do this more than the traditional organizations can, or better than, whatever. All right, so traditional. Now the question is, so by the way, I think we found our answer for 15, right? That addresses the question for 14. So let's test the answer choices here for number 14. The author indicates that in comparison to individuals, traditional organizations have tended to be, let's test A, more innovative. Do you know what innovative means?
No.
Like creative, basically. Creative.
Okay.
Creating new ideas, like new things. More innovative and less influential. So in comparison to individuals, have traditional organizations been more innovative and less influential? According to those lines, 66 through 72. More innovative and less influential. What do you think? Do we see any evidence for that?
Like line 69, where it can take on many functions. I'm not sure.
Okay, let's leave it. Go ahead and read answer choice B.
Larger in size and less subject to regulations.
Okay. Do you know what regulations means?
No.
Like rules and like legal limitations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So, does the author indicate that in comparison to individuals, traditional organizations have tended to be larger in size and less subject to regulations? Is there evidence to support that? I guess like larger in size, that's like by definition, that's obvious. But less subject to regulations?
It says large organizations could perform like on line 70.
Yeah, could perform more efficiently at lower cost or no cost at all with much greater ease. Does that mean they were subject to less regulations? That's the question.
No.
I don't see anything about regulations or rules or laws or anything like that. I just don't see any evidence to support it.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay. So it's not looking good. A and B are not looking good. We can leave them for right now. Go to read C.
less reliable and less interconnected.
Yeah, do you know what reliable means?
Something you can trust.
Yeah, something you can trust. So does the author indicate that in comparison to individuals, traditional organizations have tended to be less reliable and less interconnected? Both have to be true, by the way. Less reliable and less interconnected. Do you see any evidence to support that?
If often more efficiently.
Yeah. That's different from being reliable or being interconnected. You know what efficient means?
Something that like works.
Yeah, something that works and works with little waste. It doesn't waste much. So what do you think about C?
I don't think it's an answer.
I don't see any evidence for it. I just don't. Go to read D for me, please.
Less efficient and more expensive.
Okay, let's go back. Less efficient and more expensive. So the question
on
is...
70 it says more efficiently at lower cost.
Yeah. So, well, who or what is doing things more efficiently at lower cost or no cost at all? Is that the individuals or is that the traditional organizations?
Organizations.
So it says individuals empowered with technologies and the collective intelligence of others in the social network can take on many functions.
Oh,
Right,
those are individuals.
We're still talking about individuals. These individuals can take on many functions that previously only large organizations could perform. And these individuals can perform them often more efficiently at lower cost or no cost at all, with much greater ease. Does that make sense? That's referred to the individuals.
Yes.
So let's look at answer D again. So does the author indicate that in comparison to individuals, traditional organizations have tended to be less efficient and more expensive?
It was talking about it. Like
at the very least, like we see direct references to those ideas. At the very least, I don't remember anything about them being reliable or unreliable. I still remember no discussion about regulations or innovation or certainly the influence of the organization. But there's discussion about efficiency and cost, at the very least.
Yes.
So just based on that evidence, and we're not even talking about fully understanding what the passage is saying there. Just based on the fact that the things that are at least on topic in the text are from answer choice D, I would pick it. And it's true, right? Basically, the text says that compared to large corporations, large organizations, individuals are more efficient and more cost effective, which means that large organizations are less efficient and more expensive in comparison to individuals, which is answer choice D. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
Okay. Again, look, I'm not expecting a perfect understanding of the passages, or like there's always going to be questions that we're going to struggle on. But at the very least, take away that strategy of looking to in the 2-for-1 questions, looking to the evidence lines, and then looking at the evidence lines, and then going back looking to the answer to the previous question in the evidence. That's really useful. And then once again, just focusing on evidence in the text. Let's do this. I think we're going to skip a couple questions. I do want to skip 16, 17. And I want to do 18 and 19 together here in just a minute. But let's take a little 3-minute break. Is that cool?
Yes.
Let's take a little 3-minute break, use the restroom and grab some coffee, whatever you want to do, and come back, because I also want to get to the second passage. And then I think, we'll just pick it up from there. All right, thank you, everyone. I'll see you here in just a little bit.
Okay.